Hello, and welcome to our show about Milwaukee. I'm your host, Sydney Ewert. In today's show, we're going to talk about the relationship between the economy and crime to gain insight on the effect they have on each other. One argument is that there is no correlation between the impact of crime on the economy. However, many studies suggest that they are in fact intertwined together. For today's show, we have brought in an expert on crime and economy to discuss this relationship. Our guest is Mr. R. Tony Riley, instructor and department chair of the Law Enforcement Advanced Training Protective Services. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Perfect. So we're glad to have you on our show. But also Dr. Michael Rosen, who is a retired professor at Milwaukee Area Technical College's Milwaukee Area Federation of Teachers Local 212, otherwise known as AFT 212, is our expert on economy. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend our show due to some unforeseen circumstances. However, he shared with us his expertise in a video that our production team has done.
My name is Michael Rosen. I'm a retired economic faculty member from Milwaukee Area Technical College, where I taught for 29 years. Currently, I'm the director of the Believe in Students FAST Fund. When you look at these graphs, and in particular when you look at the unemployment rate, you'll see that relative to other counties in southeastern Wisconsin, other than Racine, Milwaukee has the highest unemployment rate. We have a significant number of people earning high incomes, that is, lawyers, business executives, and other high income earners in the community. But we also have a very, very high poverty rate, a poverty rate of over 30%, one of the highest in the state and one of the highest in the country. The federal minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. Wisconsin's minimum wage is the same. Unlike many other states and communities across the country, which have raised the minimum wage, and some are, in fact, like New York, are up to $15 an hour, Milwaukee's is still $7.25. The viewpoint that the economy does not correlate with crime is not accurate, or it's only in part accurate. Actually, crime affects the economy in both positive and negative ways. Crime rates in this country declined beginning in the early 1990s, have been declining ever since, through the Great Recession and now continuing. Crime rate, there's a misconception in the country that we have high crime rates, when in fact our crime rates are pretty low. But a combination of sensational news and a handful of sensational criminal acts combined together, I think, has the impact in the broader community of making people feel that crime is growing. It's not.
Now that we have Dr. Rosen's opinion on crime and the economy, Tony, speaking through your own experience, how safe is Milwaukee compared to other nations?
Well, when you consider statistically how Milwaukee rates against other urban centers across the country, we're in the top 10 in terms of high crime rates. Specifically, I think we're at number 6 presently, which is pretty ominous when you consider that overall the city is experiencing a decline in crime rates, but there are specific areas where we're seeing increases.
Okay. Since we're seeing decline in crime rates, why are we still in the top 10? Is that significant enough to change our rating?
We have specific areas, and they look at zip code areas to determine where are these problems traveling through. 53206 is a well-known high crime area in the inner city of the city of Milwaukee. The zip code areas, if you consider geographic areas right below 53206, abutting I-43, are also significant challenged areas.
Okay, well, thank you for that brief introduction. So before we talk more in depth, we're going to watch a short video prepared by a production team about it.
My name is Tony Riley. I'm faculty here at the Milwaukee Area Technical College. I'm a department chair and instructor with this college. I was law enforcement for approximately 34 years, first with a suburb, South Milwaukee, and then the last 24 years with the city of Milwaukee. Overall, Milwaukee statistically is considered to be amongst the higher percentage of crime rates in the United States. We're currently at 97% worse than most urban centers in the country. Or stated differently, we're in the top 10 in terms of crime rates in the United States. We're firmly at about a number 6 in that statistic, which in other words, we're only safer than 3% of other cities in the United States. Per 100,000 people in the city of Milwaukee, the crime rate for daily reported crimes is at 14.77. In other words, you can expect to be a victim in the city of Milwaukee at a probability rate of 1 in 19 on a daily basis. An unfortunate fact that ties in with the statistics we just talked about is the fact that the highest crime area in the city of Milwaukee ties into the zip code 53206. 53206 is bordered by North Avenue to the south, Capitol Drive to the north, I-43 to the east, and west to North 27th Street. 53206 is also known for having one of the poorest areas in the state of Wisconsin. That zip code by itself is number 2 in the state for poverty. 53206 is also known for one of the most violent areas in the city of Milwaukee. Significant would be the homicide, rape, and robbery rates just in that zip code alone. 53206 is also known for the number of incarcerations in that area. It leads the state of Wisconsin because 66% of the males in that zip code have been to jail or prison.
All right, now Tony, we watched the video and you talked about zip code 53206. Can you elaborate on those observations that are seen in that area?
A lot of factors contribute to the problem in 53206. 53206 is not exclusively an evil area. There's good in there as well. Mm-hmm. But what we see an unusually high statistical rate in is poverty and lack of opportunity, education, lack of employment or a high unemployment, lack of services like medical and mental health, high teen pregnancy rates, all in this somewhat small zip code area, geographic area.
Mm-hmm. And why does all those factors contribute to crime? Why are people who are experiencing poverty turning to crime then?
Well, if you're not finding employment, or you're not finding adequate employment to sustain a living, or if you're not getting a proper education, or just the combination of services that would make for a better community, crime becomes an easy answer, and the crime rates in that particular part of the inner city, especially when you consider violent crimes, as I stated in the video,
Right.
the homicide, the rape, and the robbery rates are unusually high compared to statistically across the rest of the state. And in comparison to other urban centers across the country, we're very high.
Okay. Is it just limited to that zip code area?
No, of course not. I mean, anomalies can occur, blips on a map across the whole county or even the southeastern Wisconsin region, but it concentrates in terms of pins on a map. It concentrates in that zip code area.
Okay. Why do you think that's the case, that it's so concentrated right there?
There's so many factors that play into that.
Right.
As Dr. Rosen has stated, the economy does contribute to that problem, but it's not the sole contributing factor.
Right.
Crime being the easy answer, we see high incarceration rates, we see a lot of poverty. You have teen pregnancy. Also in 53206 is an unusually high eviction rate.
Okay.
So now you have displaced children who's not
Right.
succeeding in school, who may lead to other health or even mental health issues.
Right.
It's a domino effect of all these contributing unfortunate realities.
Yeah. So you did say it was the second in the state for violence crimes, right? Or was that the poor?
Second in the state for poverty.
Poverty. So,
Yes.
yes. Is there anything that contributed to that specifically?
Well, if you look at that geographic area, 53206 and down to I-94 or the
Right.
downtown region, that was a strong manufacturing center through the city of Milwaukee.
Okay.
And from the 60s to the 80s, a lot of the manufacturing that did exist closed up shop and left, which in a vacuum created high unemployment. One company in particular, well documented, is A.O. Smith, who in its heyday employed like 9,000 or 10,000 area residents that when the company left were then unemployed and was unemployable to other manufacturing because they themselves were cutting down on their staff. So,
Right. Is there any companies moving in that you know of to help employ the residents there, or they're getting more mental health services, anything like that the city is helping?
there is a slow boom. I mean, the city of Milwaukee overall is seeing an increase in the economy, and we're seeing a downturn in the crime rates. But there are anomalous areas like those geographic areas that I've mentioned
Right.
that the crime rate continues to spike and the economy continues to tank. The popular notion is that when you have a booming economy, the crime rate should go down and vice versa. But
Right.
these seem to be a lingering problem in those areas.
Okay. All right. So my other question I have is, have you seen firsthand with your experience as a law enforcement officer more crime in low-income areas compared to higher income?
Crime can be afflicted in any area. Of course, when you have an area that has suffered from a number of contributing factors, I keep using that term over
Right,
and over
yes.
again, but it's not the one thing. It's a number of contributing factors. You see historically a long-term problem. There are areas of Milwaukee that are suffering through this, not just that one zip code, but
Right.
that a whole range of areas in the city of Milwaukee that are suffering through that. And at the same time, there are areas that are right next to it that are doing just fine.
Yeah. Is there a difference of crime in those areas, in lower income Because in 53206, you said there's homicide, robbery, rape, primarily like violent crimes. Do you tend to see that a lot more in higher income areas, or is it a different type of crime happening?
In the higher income areas, you see more property crimes.
Okay.
You may have investigations that lead to more white-collar crime type of activities. That doesn't say that violence is completely void in those areas, but it just doesn't occur as frequently as you see in challenged areas.
Okay. So speaking of white-collar crimes, does that affect the economy more than more of the violent crimes that happen?
Oh, absolutely. Criminals that engage in white-collar crime are causing their employers thousands to millions to even billions of dollars of loss, whereas the local, more domestic crimes are not totaling to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk about the impact on the economy, the low income or poverty-stricken areas are not the single cause of our worst problems.
Right. And so that money, would it take away from city services?
Absolutely. Right. If you consider that municipal governments draw their income, as it were, from tax base, if you don't have the entities that contribute to that tax base, then there's no services that, no improvement in services that can be provided. So when we lose these manufacturing opportunities, employing manufacturers, then what replaces it?
Right.
Nothing. And it's getting better. There are some businesses that are coming back to the city, but not at the rate that would turn it around quickly.
Okay. Off the top of your head, do you know a rate that would turn it around quicker?
I think that's beyond my expertise.
Okay.
But,
just curious if you had one.
Yeah, no, I don't have a number to give you, but it's not something that's going to turn around within the next 5-10 years quickly.
Yeah, is there like a difference for the specific jobs that would need to happen to help crime kind of go down?
High income earning job positions. I mean, you only have so many IT positions out there. There's only so many jobs that are of interest to current job seekers. What they're missing is other trades and professions that are employing right now, or that are losing skilled employees because the younger pool of potential employees aren't seeking those jobs.
Right.
So it's a change in the culture that is needed. You know, the sitting in an office job, while maybe not attractive to some, are the jobs that could turn some things around.
Okay. Inside that zip code 53206, is there minimum wage issues too that are contributing to the crime rate in that area?
Well, it's all according to cost of living, and I'm not an expert in that either. But the calculation on cost of living in the southeastern Wisconsin and Milwaukee region is lower than other areas. So those income rates are higher than ours, but ours is stagnant low compared to apples to orange comparisons to other urban centers. And in terms of earning a wage that would sustain month-to-month living, we are far behind.
Okay. So another question that I do have from you is, in your professional opinion, what is the relationship between low-income economies and crime? I know we kind of touched on that, but do you want to expand on those ideas?
I think theoretically, I already mentioned this, that the idea that a booming economy would result in a low crime rate becomes much more of a complex discussion. You can't just turn to that as a simple answer. But you also can't blame the economy solely for the crime rate. There's a lot of contributing factors. I like to look at problems as chunks.
Right.
You know, if I can address each chunk, I'll eventually get to a solution for the overall problem. And that's what needs to happen. You know, you can't just blame one thing. If we can address all the other contributing factors, maybe we get closer to a solution.
So let's say I just really want to help out this area or any other areas like that. What is one thing that one person could do to start helping out and reducing the crime and help start the economy and get that going a bit?
Well, I think it takes a strong community to reinvigorate an area. So there are many volunteer opportunities out there for people that are interested in working with and alongside community efforts. That's where it starts. You know, if we can breathe life back into a stronger base, then it would lead to other things like cleaning up an area, improving opportunities, improving education, improving health, and all of the, like I said, all of those factors slowly start to materialize, and you get a strong foundation. I think everything falls into place after that.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Let's end it on that high note there. And so that's going to wrap up today's show about Milwaukee. And again, I do want to give a final thank you to you, Tony, for coming on our show and providing us some insight on the connection between economy and crime. And also, before we leave, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that watched our show about Milwaukee and wish you all a great rest of your day. Thank you.